In this video, we are going to look at balancing chemical equations. In all of these examples, I'm going to give you the equation and we're just going to balance. Sometimes in the exam, they give you an underscore showing you where the balancing numbers need to go, but they don't have to do that, and you need to be able to balance an equation with or without those underscores. Here, I've written out the main rules for balancing. We're going to be using big numbers. By that, I mean the number is not going to be subscript. It's not going to go below the line, and it's going to be the same size as the capital letter that the chemical symbols are written with. The number is going to go at the front of the formula, not within, so I have to put the number in front of the H, in front of the C, or in front of the H. I can't squeeze it within the formula and separate the H and the Cl. The number will affect all elements within the formula. I'll go through what I mean by that using an example. So the first thing I'm going to do with this equation is I'm going to just split it in half. The reactants are on the left, the product is on the right. I'm going to count how many of each atom I've got on each side. So the symbol H represents hydrogen. Because I've got a 2 after the H, it tells me I've got 2 hydrogen atoms. Cl is a symbol for chlorine. Because I've got a 2 after the Cl, I've got 2 chlorines. On the right hand side, I've got HCl. I've got a H, therefore I've got a hydrogen. I've got a Cl, therefore I've got a chlorine, but this time because there's no little number, I've only got 1 of each element, not 2. To be balanced, I need to have the same number on each side. You can see here I've got 2 hydrogens on the left, I've only got 1 hydrogen on the right, I therefore need to balance it. Now, your temptation might be to stick a little number 2 in here just after the H and another little number 2 in here after the Cl, because that's what you see on the left hand side. But if we look at rule number 2, the number has to go at the front. You can't squeeze the number within the formula, so I'm not able to do that. I can't put those little 2's at the end or within. All I can do is put it at the front. So I know I want to have 2 hydrogen, so I put a big 2 at the front. And in doing so, if we look at rule number 3, the number affects all elements within that formula. So by putting that 2 there, I don't just have 1 hydrogen anymore, I've now got 2 hydrogens. So it is balanced. But by putting that 2 in the front, not only have I turned it into 2 hydrogens, I've also turned it into 2 chlorines. So I no longer have 1 chlorine on the right, I've now got 2, which makes it balanced. If we look at another example here, again, I'm going to split my equation. And I've got Ca, which is the symbol for calcium. There's no number around it, so I've got 1 Ca. I've got O, which is the symbol for oxygen. There's a little number 2 after the oxygen, so I've got 2 oxygens. On the right-hand side, I've only got 1 Ca. There's no number around it, so there's just 1. And I've got 1 oxygen, again, because I've only got 1 number around it. The first thing I'm going to do is balance the oxygens, because at the moment calcium is fine. 1 calcium on each side, it's fine. So I've got 2 oxygens on the left. I want to have 2 oxygens on the right. Again, I cannot just stick a little number 2 there. I cannot put a balancing number at the end of the formula. It has to go in the front, which means the only place for it is here. And in doing so, I have now got 2 oxygens on the right-hand side, which is balanced for my oxygen. But remember point 3, if I put a big 2 at the front, not only does it change the number of oxygens, it also changes the number of calciums. Instead of having just 1 calcium, I now have 2. That means my calciums are no longer balanced because I only have 1 on the left-hand side. But that's easily fixed. All I need to do is put a big 2 in front of my calcium here, and now I've got 2 calciums on each side, 2 oxygens on each side. Everything is balanced. I'm going to do one more with you and then get you to try one by yourself. So in this example here, again, I'm going to split my equation in 2. I have got 1 sodium, Na is sodium on the left. I've got 2 chlorines on the left. That little 2 tells me I've got 2 chlorines. On the right, I've just got 1 sodium. There's no number. I've got 1 chlorine. Again, there's no number. So here, my sodiums are balanced, 1 on each side. My chlorines are not. 2 chlorines on the left. I need 2 chlorines on the right. The number has to go at the front. My chlorines are now balanced. But by putting the big number in front, I've also changed the number of sodiums. That means I've now got 2 sodiums on the right, and sodium is no longer balanced. To fix that, I need a big 2 on the left. Now I've got 2 sodiums on each side, and everything is balanced. So the next one, you're reacting hydrogen and oxygen to form water. Please press pause, balance this for yourself, and press play when you're ready to see the answer. This one's actually a little harder, so I will go through it. So at the start, I've got 2 hydrogens on the left, 2 oxygens on the left. On the right-hand side, I've got 2 hydrogens, so that little number 2 affects the hydrogen. I've only got 1 oxygen, so when we're looking at the small numbers, you're looking at the number coming after the elements. That 2 affects the hydrogen, it doesn't affect the oxygen. So at the moment, my oxygens are not balanced, 2 on the left, 1 on the right. So what I need to do to balance the oxygens is put a big 2 at the front. Now I've got 2 oxygens on the left and on the right. My oxygen is balanced. But again, when you put that large 2 in front, it also affects the hydrogen. And you always multiply the numbers. So I've got 2 times 2. I've now got 4 hydrogens on the right-hand side. And because I've got 4 hydrogens on the right, I need 4 hydrogens on the left, which means I need to put another big 2 over here. My eraser's not working, apologies. But now I've got 4 hydrogens on the left, 4 hydrogens on the right. My hydrogens are now also balanced. Press pause, apologies. Press pause and have a go at that one. So the answer here, you should have a big 4 in front of the lithium on the left and a big 2 in front of the Li2O on the right. If I just check, I've got 2 oxygens on the left because of that small 2, and I've got 2 times 1, 2 oxygens on the right. With lithium, I've got 2 times 2 is 4 lithiums on the right-hand side, and then I need a big 4 to give me 4 lithiums on the left. Again, this one looks a little bit harder, but it's not. Press pause and have a go. So if we look at the answer here, your final answer, you should have a 2 in front of the HCl. Well done if you got that. If you didn't, I'll just quickly go through it. At the start, you've got 1 calcium on each side, so it's already balanced, but I've only got 1 hydrogen and 1 chlorine on the left, whereas I have 2 hydrogens and 2 chlorines on the right. To fix that, I need to put a big 2 in front of the HCl. That changes the number of hydrogens and the number of chlorines to 2, meaning I now have a balanced chemical equation. Just have a look at 1 or 2 of the exam questions. Here, complete the balanced equation for the reaction. So they've given you this big long dashed line, okay, but that's just to tell you that you do need to put a number in front of the HCl. If we look at what's going on here, I've got 1 hydrogen on the left, 2 on the right, 1 chlorine on the left, 2 on the right. So I would need to put a big 2 in front of the HCl, and in doing so, I get 1 mark. But another one down here, which is a little bit harder. So press pause and have a go at this one. All right, for this one, if I look at the left-hand side, I've got 2 times 2. We always multiply these numbers. So I've got 4 aluminiums on the left, which means I need a big 4 here. And that will get me 1 mark. If we count our oxygens, again, the big number is multiplied. So I've got 2 multiplied by 3. I've got 6 oxygens in total on the left. To get 6 oxygens on the right, I need a big 3 here. That will give me 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. And over here, I've got 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. So your numbers, a big 4 in front of the aluminium, a big 3 in front of the oxygen. You get 1 mark for each number you have correct.